everybody, and thank you for coming along to the second session we've had over Zoom. The original lockdown we had a question and answer with Ewan Murray. So tonight we've managed to get you one of the top PGA professional referees around, PGA professional Ashley Weller. Ashley and I actually qualified in the same year, 26 years ago, which I just found out tonight. Ash has been fellow of the PGA for the last 2 years. He's been member of the rules panel since 2006. Some of you might recognise him as tournament director from Europro, where his knowledge of the rules has been extensively tested at Montrose in the 5 events that he's been tournament director of, especially when it comes to weather delays and har and fog and everything like that. So it's safe to say we've put him to the test over the 5 years. He's also refereed in some various European Tour events, including the Untitled Links, not too far from us at Carnoustie and St Andrews, Ladies British Open, and highlight would probably be the USPGA in 2019, won by Brooks Koepka. While Ash is going through his presentation, if you want to ask a question, feel free to use the chat button at the bottom of the screen. Just press that. I can pick that up and I can interject with Ash and ask the questions as we go along if it's relevant. While Ash is presenting, if you switch your microphones off, but keep your cameras on, because that won't interfere with the volume in the videos. And just one quick point, this is about the rules and not about WHS or World Handicapping or anything like that. Both Ash and I are relatively new to that, as all of you guys are, but I'm sure we'll find some decent rule questions to test them. So Ash, it's over to you.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Evening, everybody. I can see some of you. It's a little bit different doing this over Zoom. We normally do it personally, so bear with us in case anything goes wrong. Got some videos that we'll go through. The sound might be a little bit out of sync with the picture, just depending on how it comes over the Wi-Fi's and what have you, but it should be no problem. If you're getting problems with it, just let Jason know on the chat and we'll try and sort it, but it generally works pretty well. That's today, and that's you. Jason's gone over that. So I've been rules panel for 2006. I started doing some tournament directing on the Europro Tour, just odd events. First one being Montrose. I forget the year, it was about 5 years ago, maybe 6. I got asked to be the lead tournament director for the tour 4 years ago, so I've been doing it full time. So I do most of the events on the Europro Tour now. And then in the winter, if COVID allows, I work on the MENA Tour, which is Middle East and North Africa. So I do this full time now, which was a really, really good idea until about 12 months ago when my work disappeared. But we're looking forward to getting back to it. As Jason said, excuse me, if you've got any questions, just chuck them in the chat. Jason will pick them straight away. We want this to be interactive. I will get bored of my own voice, let alone you, over the next hour or so. So if you've got any questions on any of the things we're covering or any of the videos we look at, please ask questions. And then happy to do a little Q&A at the end if you wish, if there's anything outstanding. So pop it in the chat or save it for the end of the presentation, and we'll try and get everything answered for you. Okay, so the rules, ever evolving, and just to sort of give you an idea, that's what we used to do to drop the ball up till 1984, backwards over the shoulder. I'm old enough to remember, so Jason sure as hell is. He'll remember doing that as a youngster. Then 1984 to 2018, we started dropping from shoulder height, looking forward so we weren't hurting our backs. And then we decided that we needed to hurt our backs again, so we're now dropping it from knee height as of the new rules 2019 onwards. There was a lot of debate about the dropping height. What they were trying to do was get the ball to stay within the relief area virtually every time you dropped it. So the original plan was that it was going to be dropped from an inch above the ground or more. So we as referee said, so we're now meant to be lying flat on our stomachs, measuring 1 inch from where the player's dropping the ball. It's not practical. So that was a bit of a compromise, to be honest, knee height. But now, as it's got to be knee height, we have to stand there. And if it's slightly above the knee or slightly below the knee, we've got to get the player to do it properly. I have a feeling these new rules, it was a massive change in the rules. They're being reviewed constantly. Some of them have been updated, modified, or changed already. But I think this one, when they redo, they do a 4-yearly review of the rules. I think this is probably going to change, and it's going to go to something like between hip and knee height, or shoulder and knee height, something like that, just to make it a little bit more easy. The whole point about the rules, it was meant to be simplifying them, and this one didn't really simplify it and looks a bit daft in my opinion. But we are trying to drop it and keep it in the relief area, so I think that one's going to get revisited for sure. Rules wise, 1744 were the first known written rules. I think from the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers, I believe, 1744. And then the major rules rewrites, and you can see that it's 35 years since a major revision of the rules, and it was long overdue. So it took about 4 years to get it done, all in all, with all the consultations and toing and froing and rewriting and what have you. But they got it done in the end, and I think overall it was a decent job. But why rewrite the rules? We got to a stage with them where the rules were very, very complex, and the purpose of them wasn't always completely clear. It had got very, very wordy, and the rules, the rule book itself contained hundreds of rules and sub rules, and then we also had as referees and some amateur golfers, it was the decisions book, and I always call that the what if book. That's the rule, but what if it bounces off Jason's head, cannons into my car wheel, hits Claire's bicycle up the drain pipe and onto the green. And this was in the decisions book. Basically, if it had ever happened, it was in that book. So you had to go searching through that one if it was a bit of a strange one. So there's about 1,200 separate decisions on the rules in that book, plus the 34 rules itself and all the subsections and exceptions and what have you. So they were very, very complex, and the purpose just wasn't clear. It was very hard to find the answers. So if you're looking for a rule or an answer to a rules query, there was a definition section, there was notes on the rules, there were exceptions to the rules, there was appendices, and then you might have had to go to the big book and find the decisions. It got to be a very, very complex process to find that rule. And the rulebook language was very dense and complex, and a word being changed could change the whole rule. There's, for instance, you should do this or you must do this. Should is just it was a recommendation. You should put an identification mark on your ball. But you must do this was a rule. You had to do it. A ball and the ball. A ball meant that you could substitute a ball. The ball meant you couldn't substitute a ball. And if you missed just a certain word in a rule or a subsection or a note or what have it, you could end up going down the wrong track and getting it wrong. So it had been written, or it had got to a stage where these rules were being written literally by lawyers to get the wording absolutely correct. So they were trying to get the rules black and white. No way were you going to go wrong, but they were then being worded in such a way that it was really difficult to understand it. So they were kind of in between a rock and a hard place. The rules were meant to be as black and white as possible, but they'd got very, very, very complex. And some of the rules, we got to a situation that some of the rules were unfair, or getting hyper technical, so hair splitting approach, and people were starting to get penalised for no obvious reason. What a lot of people were seeing as an unfair reason that these people were getting either penalties or getting disqualified. There's a number of examples. Harrington got disqualified from an event when his ball moved a fraction of an inch. He didn't notice it had happened. It was shown on TV, close zoom in, the ball had ever so slightly moved. He'd already gone and signed his scorecard. He actually got disqualified. And no one really knew until the TV zoomed in on it. No one really knew that rule had been breached. And people were starting to get disqualified for incidents that were completely minor, but because the rules had to be followed to the nth degree, and then they were signing for a wrong score because they hadn't included the penalty that they didn't know they'd incurred. They were getting disqualified, and it was getting a little bit silly. So here's one example coming up. There's no sound on this, but you should get it. Okay, so that was a US Open. Dustin Johnson, the green was stimping at about 14. It was like a marble tabletop, slopey, a little bit breezy. The guy's wandered in, you can see he's taken his stance, ready to go. He hasn't grounded the putter behind the ball. He hasn't touched the ground at all. He's moved the putter in behind the ball, and the ball's rolled about a dimple. And it was ruled that he caused that ball to move, and he was penalised for it. He was penalised a shot. He didn't replace the ball because the referee actually came. They spoke to him, and the referee said, "Okay, I'm happy that you didn't cause the ball to move." They then reviewed it while he was a few holes further around the course, and they reviewed it and decided that he had caused it to move. So he got a one-shot penalty for causing it to move. He didn't get the additional shot for not replacing it because the referee had instructed him not to. He said he was okay, so he just got the one shot. Fortunately, he won the tournament. It didn't affect the tournament on this occasion, but he's suffered before, and it's cost him a playoff in a major, a minor rules breach. But do you think that's fair that he's caused that ball to move? In those circumstances, on the fastest greens, you take your Montrose greens when Jason's got them sorted out for your club championships, and they're nice and quick. Double the speed, add a little bit of breeze, put it on a slope, and that ball moves a fraction of an inch when you haven't put your club on the ground behind the ball. I thought at the time, totally unfair. Really, really crazy situation for him to get penalised like that. And those are the kind of things that the new rules were trying to address. Got another one. Another one coming up in a sec. Again, why were we doing this? And the rules had limited reference to many typical golfers, and the golfers basically weren't learning the rules to any extent because they were so complex. The basic stuff, yes, but as soon as you got into any kind of detail, people were just completely switched off from learning the rules. It's not top of everyone's list at any point in time, but if they're difficult and they're really, really complex, then people are just going to get turned off by it. So the thinking was to simplify the rules. Just carrying on from that, they were off-putting, intimidating to a lot, especially juniors and newcomers to the game, with the very, very people that were trying to get involved in the game. So you imagine, okay, here you are, just joined your golf club, you're playing in the stable for next weekend. read this book, that's your rules, what you're going to have to do or not do on the golf course before you go out. People are going to say, nah, not for me, thanks very much. So it was very, very it was at the front of their minds that they wanted to encourage people into the game, and if the rules were simplified, then that would help. And also the rules, that they weren't modern enough. Slow play, which is talked about day in, day out. I'm sure it's a nice discussion point in the clubhouses at Montrose after your competitions, that the group in front were really slow, took them 2.5 hours to play the front nine and what have you. Very little mention of it in the previous rules. Just you mustn't unduly delay play, and that was about it. So they wanted to tackle modern problems, if you like. So they wanted the rules to be more easily understood and therefore applied by all golfers. So getting more and more golfers on board with the basic rules of the game in a simplified manner, get more people au fait with the rules. We'll try and put me out of a job, but let's not go there. More consistency, simpler and fairer. And I think overall, there's been a few tweaks and what have you, and a few controversies along the way, but since 2019, I think it can be agreed that they are more consistent for sure. Are they simpler? They're still not easy, but I think they are simpler to understand as a layman, and very much so, as we'll cover in a couple of videos still to come up, I think they are fairer. And they wanted to reinforce the game's long-standing principles and its character. And the basic one is you had to play a ball from the tee until it ends up in the hole, and to play the ball as it lies in the course as you find it. That's how we were meant to find it. Stories of guys playing in the open, playing shots out of broken bottles and all that kind of stuff. But you're never going to get to that. But I think they've tried to get us back a little bit to less complicated situations, less areas where you're going to get relief, where someone just looking as an outsider would think, what on earth are they getting a drop for there? That's just crazy. They're trying to get back to the basic roots of the game. They'll never get there. The game's too modern, too complicated now, but I think they've made a good stab at it. So what does it look like these days? There's 2 books that you can get. There's the rules book. That's as it says on the tin. That is the book of the full rules of golf. But they've also put in a player's edition, written in the second person, simple wording-ish. And it covers the more commonly found situations that you're going to get when you're working with the rules. Where points aren't covered, you're pointed back to the main rules book. But certainly as a club, with your members, with your new members, or even your long-standing members, they should really at least have a player's edition in their golf bag, because the simpler stuff is in there. There's diagrams. It's a lot more easy to navigate. Certainly, if I was in charge of a member section or running a club, I would have a bunch of them on the desk and hand them out, because it covers a lot, and the basic rules probably cover 90-95% of the situations you're actually going to get on the golf course. So if your members can understand the player's edition, got a reasonable working knowledge of that player's edition of the rules, then you're a long way down the line. And also, and again, I think the R&A can certainly have been criticised in the past of being a little bit behind the times, a little bit stuffy. They put an enormous amount of money into generating online and social media resources. The rules section on the R&A website is very, very good. And the rules as a whole, there's a lot more in the way of diagrams. So rather than just words, hey, let's have a look. This is what your relief area looks like. This is this is how you drop it. It's much better, but the online resource is absolutely fab. And if you haven't got the R&A rules app on your mobile phone, get it, because you've always got your mobile phone with you, and you can find virtually everything on it. So if you're on the course, got a little rules query, get that app on your phone, and it's laid out a lot better than it used to be. You'll find virtually everything you need to know on that app, and it can save you a lot of trauma on the golf course. So some of the major changes that were made, this is just a very small selection, but there used to be 34 rules. There's now 24. So the rule book is a bit easier to navigate, and they've moved stuff around within the rules. Nightmare for me, who has an exam next Friday and has to know all the rule numbers and subsections off by heart. And with a year of not playing golf, my brain's gone straight back to the old rule numbers, and I've got to relearn them all again. But we get there in the end. Dropping a ball, obviously it was stand erect and hold out your arm from shoulder height and drop. We've now gone to knee height. Time allowed to search for a ball was changed from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. I think that was huge for pace of play. And again, working a lot of tournaments, the number of times a ball in a ball search with players, caddies, refs, and a couple of spectators, number of times a ball was actually found between from the end of the 3rd minute to the 5th minute in those last 2 minutes of search was very, very small. It was either usually found pretty quickly or it wasn't found. So the number of balls that aren't going to get found in those last 2 minutes is pretty small. And if you multiply that over 156 players playing a round of golf, the number of ball searches you have, that has been massive for pace of play. One of the big ones, repairing damage on the putting green. Pretty much any damage, including spike marks, can now be repaired. So that's probably slowed down pace of play a touch. But again, I think fairer. You walk on the green, the guy in front's twisted his heel. Great big spike mark up there. You've got the 3-foot putt with a mountain range between you and the hole because of this guy's heel mark. Totally unfair, and you weren't allowed to tap it down. So I think that's a good move, a sensible move. And then the areas of the course have been renamed. And one thing you could sit and say in a rules seminar with a room full of golfers, tell me what through the green means. Nobody really knew. It's now the general area. So we've got general area, bunkers, penalty areas, greens and tees. That's it. So again, wording being more simple. The general area is the area of the golf course you're most likely to be playing from, and it just doesn't include bunkers, penalty areas, tees and greens. That's it. So the wording, again, being simplified. So that's some of the changes. I'm just going to have a look at a couple of examples of how the rules have changed, and just see that things are a little bit more straightforward. So here's your first one. I'm just going to play that one again. So it's just what he does immediately after he's lifted his ball. So under the old rules, anything wrong with that? Absolutely right. He's tapped a spike mark down just on his line of putt. That cost him, keep nodding, Jason, cost him a big fine, 3 months suspension, something like that, wasn't it? He got banned off the tour for 3 months, big old fine. And this is Simon Dyson. It pretty much finished his career. He never really recovered from it. The line of putt was completely sacrosanct, and he's claimed he had no memory of doing it, no knowledge of doing it, but it was picked up, and he got absolutely slaughtered for it, for tapping down a spike mark on his line of putt. Did the punishment befit the crime? Possibly at the time, yes. He got absolutely vilified. I think the reaction was a bit over the top, but he was disqualified for it because he didn't include that penalty in his, under the old rules, didn't include that penalty in his score, signed the card, wrong score, and off he went. But it destroyed him as a player, and all he's done is tap down an imperfection caused by somebody else on his line of putt. So if Simon Dyson had done that last week, no one would have batted an eyelid. You are now allowed to repair damage, including spike marks, footprints, holes made by animals, anything like that on your line of putt. No bother. You can tap them down now. So comparing what he went through from doing that, I think that was about 5 years ago, off the top of my head, something like that, 4 or 5 years ago. And now no penalty, carry on. So again, simplified, there's damage on his line, he can repair it, crack on. I think all in all that's fair. Jason, I can see a couple of chats have come up. Anything worth?
Oh, nothing yet.
Nothing a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next video. This one's a bit longer. I would like you to pay homage to the humble rules official and the fact that you can plainly see after about just after the bad news is delivered to this player that he would like to be anywhere else but the 15th green at Augusta at this point. He wants to be out of here. And this is how we're made to feel sometimes, but you can see why. Here we go.
So chipping all the way back up using a lower lofted.
A la Raymond Floyd.
This looks handy too. Just a little quick there, but he's compiling one of the better rounds of the day is Billy Horschel. Look at him. Running up to mark that before it falls off the false front.
You know, the wind's going that direction. So if Augusta wind were to come up, could literally blow that ball right in the water.
Fortunately, he's put a coin behind it, so the job's done in getting it into his pocket. Wasn't able to find it, but posted a tournament low or a tour low 60.
That's so low. Uh-oh. And we have a rules official, and clearly when this happens on the green, it's got to be a ball moving.
Well, he was concerned about marking his ball. And
No.
Oh,
no. So
take us through this.
Oh, my goodness. So if he literally had the ball down, and so the ball is in play. He didn't cause the ball to move. If he had, he wishes he caused the ball to move because then he'd be able to replace it with a one-shot penalty. So he's going to now be playing his 5th shot from the other side of the lake. And he's getting the news now. This is what the ruling is, and he can't believe it. This is one of the injustices of the game. You're on the green, the ball's down, you've already marked it, you put it back, and the wind hits it and blows it in the water.
Had he left his coin behind the ball, is that deemed to be not in play?
No, the ball is in play when you leave your coin behind it as well. And it's really whenever there's a decision like that to be made from a player's perspective, you don't mark the ball down until you are ready to hit it.
Let's just have a look. He was having a look from the other side when a big gust of breeze just came in.
He didn't need to have the ball down. He could have seen the line of his putt with a mark down. And you can see the ripples on the water as the gust hits it. And this is such a helpless feeling. It truly is. There are several rules in the game that are just an injustice from a player's perspective, but it's up to the players to understand the rules and when you can be at a disadvantage.
So now he's able to go back and play from here because this was, in fact, his 3rd shot.
Correct.
That has been deemed to be the outcome of it.
but it's still stroke and distance. And so he'll be playing 5 from down here. Of course, the ball's going to roll more than 2 club lengths. He'll get to redrop it.
Well, we know Billy Horschel can get hot under the collar. But he'll really need to just take some time here.
Yeah, he needs to collect himself.
He's
had a pretty good round going.
Had a great round going. He was level par here at this stage and was thinking maybe birdie after being over the pond in 2, and now he's...
You know, there's been situations in professional golf where this has happened. I remember Ed Doherty in the 1986 Bing Crosby, Luke, held the lead playing the 17th hole at Cypress Point on a Saturday when he 10-putted. He continued to putt the ball up, and the gust of wind kept blowing the ball off the green.
On which green? On 17?
On 17. He 10-putted and went from in the lead to missing the cut.
It's a cruel game at times, Bobby.
And they suspended play immediately after that because of winds.
So now Horschel playing his 5th shot.
Interesting how he decided to putt this time.
Considering what he's been enduring.
That remaining for bogey.
Speaking of bogeys, McIlroy's just made one at the 3rd, so Spieth's lead back out to 3 already.
Have you ever seen a rules official move so fast to get the hell out of there? As Horschel looked like he was about to kill him. Number of things from that video. So the rules as they were that if you cause the ball to move, you replace the ball and you had a 1-stroke penalty. A ball moved by what we now call natural forces, i.e. wind, is in play from where it finishes up. So you can see that prior rules changed where this one was. Horschel had played his shot on, he'd actually marked it and replaced it and was just round at the other side of the hole lining up his putt, and the wind's got it and blown it in the water, and he gets a 1-shot penalty and has to go back to where he played his last shot from, which is monumentally unfair. And again, we've got the Masters 14 of 15 on the stimp. It's on a slope right by the front of the green, shaved bank down into the water. It gets windy at Augusta. These things are going to happen, and happened a lot. So the rules were changed in a couple of ways. Now, even if you accidentally cause your ball to move on the putting green, so putting green only, if your ball is on the putting green, if you accidentally kick it, drop your putter on it, drop your ball marker on it, you replace the ball and there's no penalty. That's been changed. That's a good rule. So we've not got these ones where like the Dustin Johnson one we looked at earlier. Did he or did he not cause that ball to move? Even if they still ruled on that old the previous Dustin Johnson one, he'd have just had to replace the ball, which was about a 1/10 of an inch closer to the hole. Or if he hadn't caused it to move, he's going to play it from where the ball is. But what they've also changed is that if your ball is on the putting green and you have already marked and lifted it and replaced it, like Horschel had, you own that spot on the putting green now. So if the wind blows the ball into the water like it did there, he's already marked, lifted and replaced it. He will just replace the ball on that spot, or the estimated spot, and no penalty. So in this particular video, if he had just hit the ball on the green to that spot and he was walking up to the green and the wind blew it in the water, okay, he's still in trouble. But as he had already marked and lifted the ball and replaced it, he owns the spot. So under the new rules, Horschel would have just placed a ball at that spot and carried on. So he'd have been putting for birdie still, not chipping back on the green for 5. He actually made a hell of a 6 there, to be fair. But again, that's one of those ones where a bystander or a layman watching that coverage thinking, how can that possibly be fair? Not quite as unpopular as VAR, but I'd say running it a close second. And here's another one from the old days. Okay, I'll just do that one again. Okay, so that was Peter Hansen, Ryder Cup player. Quite a few years back now. It was one of the very first times where they started using this ultra close-up, super slow-mo type filming. And I actually went in, he played that belly wedge shot, and I actually went in with the commentary. I remember it saying, oh yeah, this is how to perfectly execute a belly wedge. Hit it halfway up the ball with your sand wedge, rolled it on the green, etc. It was a fairly new sort of style of shot as well. It was quite a new thing, that playing the belly wedge shot as it was. And they were looking at this. Here you go, hits it exactly halfway up the ball, and you can see the ball move forward, but then sort of rests against the grass. The grass kind of holds it up, and the club follows through, and he's double hit it. So again, under the old rules, a double hit was counted as a stroke plus a penalty stroke. Fortunately, he was still on the golf course at the time, and they caught up with him and said, "We think you may have double hit the ball on the 16th." And he just said, "No, I'd have felt it. I'd have felt it if I double hit it. I'll have a look in the caravan when he finished." And before he signed his card, he went and had a look, and he said, "I had absolutely no idea that had happened. I didn't feel it, not a clue." So again, changes in the rules. Again, that would have, if that had been picked up under the old rules at the time when this happened, if that had been picked up after he'd finished his round, he'd have been disqualified because he was assigned for a score lower than he actually took, which is unfair. He had no idea he'd broken a rule. Absolutely, couldn't feel it, nothing. So now, double hits don't count anymore. Double hit is just one stroke. But also, if he had, let's say there is a penalty for a double hit still, which there isn't, but if there was, and he'd signed his card and left, and then this kind of coverage comes up, there's now what we call a naked eye standard of officiating. If he couldn't have reasonably been expected to know that he'd double hit that ball, then he would escape. Because if you couldn't tell with the naked eye, and they're just trying to get away from this super slow-mo, hyper HD kind of video where the tiniest little movement of a ball can be picked up and the player's not aware of it, they're getting absolved from penalties now, which again is a good thing. You're getting away from this trial by television and the armchair referee type of thing going on. And again, I think that's a very positive thing for the game. But as it happens, double hit is now not penalised. And again, fortunately, he was leading. He won the tournament. I think he actually had to go into a playoff instead of winning it outright, but he did actually win the tournament. So good news for him. However, this is my favourite bit. There's still no excuse for stupid people.
Interesting position here. No has missed his tee shot wildly right. He's on the middle of the green on the third hole and is electing to whack it off it. Up it goes. Going to be interesting for the guys putting after that. Hit a good shot though. We're here with PGA Tour Rules official Brad Fable. Slightly interesting thing just happened there, didn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he was on the green or not. I knew he was close to the green, but evidently, you know, player was on the wrong putting green and decided to play it off the green. So unfortunately, it's a 2-stroke penalty.
Is that a local rule or is that a rule of golf?
No, that's a rule of golf, wrong putting green.
Okay. Well, we heard it first right here. That was definitely one of those things you don't come across every day, is it?
It was a first for me, yes.
So, Jason, is 2-shot penalty for playing a ball off a wrong putting green adequate, or should it be death by hanging?
It depends. I think it depends on your greenkeeper.
So in your case, it's death by hanging, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you miss the third, for example, I don't really want to see anybody hitting a lob wedge from the middle of the 16th green back up onto the third. Definitely not.
There'll be some divots to repair that. It might help flatten that. Might help flatten that green out a little bit, mightn't it? Right. What do we got? Playing. Sorry, should explain that one. Playing from a wrong putting green is forbidden. It used to be that you could stand on a wrong putting green to play a ball that's off the putting green. So say that ball played off the thirds, rolled down, and the ball's just off the 16th green, but you've got to stand on the 16th green to play it. That's now been changed that you can't be standing on a wrong putting green to play a ball that's off. It can be modified by local rule just in case that you have the type of course where the tiny little fringe and then thick rough, so you'd have been dropping from a nice lie into knee-high cabbage. But the standard rule is that you can't stand. You get relief for stance as well as live ball on a wrong putting green now. Which
So,
I think,
Ash, on that subject, if that's a situation, and there is a dropping zone, do you have to go to that dropping zone?
generally speaking, a dropping zone is an additional option.
Okay. So as long as you've taken full relief from the wrong putting green, you don't have to go to the dropping zone.
No, dropping zones, it depends how you've worded it, but dropping zones are normally additional options under the rule. Is that what your little square is down near that green that we try to ignore when we play Europro?
We've had dropping zones down there in the past, yes.
Yeah, I thought that was that for balls that were landing on 16 green?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was for the goals that you were pulling out.
No, some of the dropping zone, we used to have dropping zones behind the 16th green specifically for that when you hooked one off the third down onto that green. Perfect.
Yeah, normally additional. Same with I know you do have the world's smallest penalty area on your golf course, but that's it. But it's quite common with penalty areas. They put a drop zone in, but it's an additional option.
So the option, if you are on Louise has asked, what do you do if you're on the wrong green? So is it reference point and then take your drop?
So if your ball lies on a wrong putting green, or you're standing on a wrong putting green to play a ball, you find the nearest point not nearer the hole that gives you complete relief for live ball stance, area of intended swing, and you drop within 1 club length of that.
Okay.
And while we're on relief areas have been simplified because you now get your reference point and 1 club length for a free drop, 2 club lengths for a penalty drop. That's your relief area. So in days gone by, if your ball was embedded, you had to drop as near as possible to the spot. If you're playing stroke and distance, you had to drop it as near as possible. That's now all been clarified, and it's your reference point, and then you get the club length or 2 club length area to drop in. So that's been sorted out, and that's where things have been clarified and made more simple. It's, not one situation, you got to drop it exactly here. Another situation, you get a club length. It's now, okay, there's your point. There's your relief area. Drop in it, which is good. Any other questions up that we need to answer now, Jason?
Carol's asking, what if, because at the moment, obviously, we've got winter greens
Yeah.
marked out. So what if our ball is lying on a winter green, but you're putting to a normal green? Does that count as a wrong green?
No, because they're not technically greens. You've got two options there. They're basically you nominate your temporary greens as sorry, you're playing to your proper greens now.
Yeah.
But you've got temporary greens marked out that you don't really want to destroy. Okay. Your temporary greens should be classified as abnormal course condition, ground under repair.
Okay.
So again, nearest point of complete relief for stance, area intended swing and live ball, and drop within 1 club length of that.
Okay.
However, that relief is always optional. So you may drop a ball, so you could play as it lies. If you want to stop people playing from those temporary greens,
you make them GUR.
You make them GUR with compulsory relief. You have to have that as a local rule.
Okay.
Your only problem there is that someone who is unaware of that, if they play the ball from the green, even if they just putt it, they're going to get a penalty.
Okay.
So it's about, if you can get everybody totally aware you must not play from the temporary greens, then you're good. The only thing you need to be careful of is that sometimes, by the definition of a temporary green, the lie of the ball is going to be pretty good. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you haven't got that next to a patch of 7 foot high rough, so that the nearest point of relief is in 7 foot high rough.
Yeah. Okay.
Just be careful where those greens are situated.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to cover?
No, I think that's it for wrong green.
Okay. I'm seeing nine chats there at the minute. Is that right?
Yeah, that's okay. All covered.
Good. Cool. Right, before we start, this is quite long. It is within the rules. It's mainly in there because it's quite funny. And this guy, Stephen Cox, used to be the head of tournaments at the PGA in this country, and God, he's been over there a long time now. So it was my first full year on the rules panel. So 2006, 2007 time, he's moved across to the States and now works for the PGA Tour. And he's quite renowned amongst us that all the really smelly rulings that happen, he's quite often involved in them. The one, did you see the one, Jason Kuchar, when he was trying to claim his ball had bounced and embedded twice? Yeah, that was him. He's Coxie. Well, he was the one that came up and said, I think we've been doing this long enough, just get on and play. That was Cox losing his temper with him. But this guy, so this is Kevin Na he's on the 9th hole, first round, Texas Open, I think it was. See if you can keep count, guys.
Again, and if this breaks, the part of the trees break?
Get in there.
Okay.
Not see anybody get in.
Yeah.
I'll just,
I mean, there's nothing. You got nothing. Go back to the tee. Pick it up, right? Yeah.
I always hate to hear those words, and this was what happened back at the tee.
ooh. He might be right back in the same spot. Headed right.
Oh my goodness.
Man alive.
You got another one?
Ooh.
I mean, it's 50-50, huh?
Yeah. What are the chances we get out here? 50-50.
You hear him speak?
Oh!
I might hit it. About. Oh, I gotta get the bag out of the way. Bag's not in the way. Well, if it hits something, it could be out of the way.
He's gonna go for it.
Directly behind you. But at foil here. I think that ball was hit.
Unless it was a branch.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I heard it. I felt it something.
Oh man, this is getting worse.
My inner thigh. I don't know if that was a branch that came up or that was a ball, but something hit me.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a penalty shot if it hit him.
No. Well,
David.
I don't.
Oof. We could be here a while sorting this out.
take a look at it.
So if I call Untitled, where do I go?
You're operating from this spot, obviously back as far as you like.
But I can't go back to the tee.
You've got to come back to your steel in the middle of rolling.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You heard that.
So I was right.
So it looks like you've got one for that.
So
for that
can I
bridge.
call another unplayable there?
So obviously from that point there, you've got back in line. As far
Or
as
I
you
can
like,
just go right here.
where you played your last stroke from, or 2 club lengths from that point.
Butchering this hole. All right. So if I go far as back as I want, I can go right here, wouldn't I? Drop it right here.
Can you see the flag from there?
Yeah.
Just near your right footage, your right foot there.
Kenny, just give me another ball.
You can hear the frustration in his voice now.
Oh,
Man, he is playing quick too. He is obviously got the head spinning going on right now. We think that was his 7th shot.
wow.
He moved it a
And
couple
still counting.
feet. My goodness. We're going to have to try to figure this out. I don't. That one pass, I'm not sure if he whiffed the ball. Then he hit it another quick again. He wants to get out of. We're going to have to figure this out. I'm not even sure what stroke he's playing. We think that was 11.
Yeah.
And further back in the stuff. Ooh. There's just no relief with the.
Finally.
Oh my goodness. With his 12th shot, we think. And he gets a round of applause for that. Let's hear what Kevin Na had to say.
I have no idea what you have. I don't know. How are we going to count all the shots? I have no idea. I can't keep track. Well, they got it on tape, so they're just going to have to go back and count it. I really feel that this year.
What's this, his 13th shot?
Yeah, we think. Trying to get sticks. He's got thorns stuck in him. He's probably got all kinds of tears in that shirt.
Well, he's smiling about it anyway.
Yeah.
Caddy's not. Well, I don't really know what this is for. We'll have to add them all up. Wow. Not done yet.
No. I don't know what you can say. I mean, he just really didn't think that through.
This is roughly his 15th shot. But that's unofficial. We'll have to tally that.
I think that basically says there's hope for us all. Anybody know what he shot for the round? That actually was 16, I believe, that he took on that hole. Have a guess what he shot, Jason.
80.
Exactly correct.
Thought so. I thought it was I couldn't remember if it was a 15 or a 16 he had.
I think it was a 16, but he shot 80, which is quite extraordinary with a 16.
He never does anything in a hurry, does he?
I was going to say, when they said he's playing quick, I thought Kevin Na plays quick. That's the first. Under the new rules, it would have been a 15, not a 16, because you're not penalised for accidentally hitting yourself with the ball anymore. So he still would have missed the cut, but there you go. the one sort of point there, he played his first shot, wanged it in the trees, decided he had nothing, and went back to the tee. Played 3 off the tee, stuffed it straight back in the trees again. At that point, he could have said, okay, I'll go back to the tee again, and I'll be playing 5, stroke and distance. As soon as he took a swing at that ball and it hit the tree, came back, hit him, he's now in the middle of the forest. And his options are that if he wants to declare it unplayable, which he did, he can go back to where he played the previous shot from, which was about 3 foot in front of him. He can go back on the line, keeping where the ball is on the line between him and the flag, or he could go 2 club lengths not nearer the hole. As soon as he took a swing at it in the trees, he's in the trees. He can't go back. He loses the right to go back to the tee because that's where the previous shot was made from. So as soon as he took that swing in anger, thinking he could get it through a gap that obviously didn't exist, he's in a world of pain and he knows it, which is why he just starts sword fighting in there. So but if you do that, yeah, for goodness sakes, have a think before you start swinging at it. I did it in it was regional qualifying for the Open in 1876 or something like that. And I was going along nicely. I was a couple under par, playing the 14th, and I whipped it left, which I have been known to do. I'm in knee-high rough. I have one swing at it. It goes about a foot, and I'm in the same situation he was in. I just couldn't get the thing out, and ended up taking a 9. So I missed getting through to final qualifying by a shot or 2 shots, something like that. And the guy I'm recording says, blimey, how did you take a 9 on the 14th? So I held a 25-foot putt. But yeah, take a breath, have a look at your situation. Sometimes going back to where you've just played your last shot from is the best option, because one swing at it, leave it in stuff like that, and you are dead. That was brain fade, and this one I would probably just say is bad luck.
Here's Justin Rose. Now he's taking a practice swing here, and I want you to take a look at what's going on at the 14th hole with what happened to Justin as he takes his practice swing. Take a look at this, Frank. Takes a little bit of a divot. Oh, and it hits the ball.
Causes the ball to move.
Yep. Caused the ball to move. He brings an official back out there. It ends up being a 1-shot penalty. Look at Justin Frank just staring at the ball there.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. It's a cruel game sometimes.
And a common one that happens, similar kind of theme to that. If you're standing next to your ball on the fairway and you take a practice swing and you accidentally hit the ball and it goes 15 yards straight right or whatever, that is you accidentally causing the ball to move, and you take a 1-shot penalty and you replace the ball. It is not a stroke, because a stroke is the forward movement of the club with the intention of striking the ball and striking and moving the ball. So a lot of people fall foul of that. If you then wander over 15 feet to where the ball's finished up and play from there, you're now on a 2-shot penalty because you're playing from a wrong place because you didn't put the ball back. So you're now in a world of pain. So if you accidentally hit the ball when the ball's in play, then it's a 1-shot penalty and replace the ball. If you do that on the tee, so you've got the ball teed up, ready to go, and you take a swing at it, and you take a practice swing and you just accidentally hit it with the toe of the club or whatever, and the ball rolls 5 foot forward. That is not a stroke, and it is also not a penalty, because the ball is not in play until you've made a stroke at it from the teeing ground. So that you would just stick the ball back on the tee peg, no penalty, away you go. So again, whilst the rules have been simplified, there's little subtleties in there. So ball in, you need to know what a ball in play is, and that's after you've had a swipe at it from the teeing ground. So if you accidentally cause it to move on the tee before you have played a shot, that ball isn't in play. Stick it back on the tee and away you go, no problems at all. If you accidentally hit it when you're on the fairway with a practice swing is not a stroke. So you've accidentally caused that ball to move. 1 stroke penalty, pop it back. Okay, that's the end of the videos and what have you. I'm going horse.